Cafe Global. This program is one of the greatest shows I think we've ever done because we are going to interview Pamela Hirst, the godmother of poetry everywhere, who now has moved on from Nashville, Tennessee, but is moving on to other places and has created many things. My name is Brian Burchette. We have David Koci with us tonight. We have Mr. Patrick Michael that's going to give you a great musical performance before this show. As we always have in tradition, Pat do the beginning of every show. And we hope you tune in, have a good time. And if you need to hit pause for a second, go get the popcorn, go get some beverages, because you're not one of them missing out on tonight's show. And I give you Mr. Patrick Michael.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pat.
That was very good. Thank you.
The admins here from Literature Cafe Global, as well as David Koci. And it's a pleasure to have everybody here on this program. And this is called West. Magazine with Marcus Pele Productions that David runs. And my poem was actually about the time in the 90s when I was in the same scene as everybody else.
Here, you can have the seat now.
All right, I think I'm going to keep the microphone for a second.
Okay. Keep the microphone.
It's mine. Thanks. All right, guys, here we go. This is Nights. Some of this is true, but I won't tell you what is. Nights, a historical poem reflecting on the 90s for entertainment only. Nights spent crashed at a friend's apartment in Parthenon Towers in West End. Nights at Bongo Java West and its neighboring 7-Eleven. Rosalina's house, where Dr. Shiny Shoes was chilling too. But back then they were happy. Now Dr. Shiny Shoes got a gig, knows the universe and how to live. I like art as it soothes, smooths away the sadness to a minimal roar, closes my darkest doors, no fear of the shadows anymore. Nights, nights, nights. Everyone just grew up before we could self-destruct. Everyone wanted to make it, create the ticket to the show and take it live. Nights spent crashed at a friend's apartment in Parthenon Towers. Nights so grand that one could only hope to see the spectacle or dream, phenomena and foresight into the unknown. Strange dreams and odd poems. Nights when you were in another zone. Nights when it seemed we were in another place and time. Dreamlike serenade in Centennial Park. As Zima drinking couples cry over love-struck Romeo sings a street song serenade. Nights, nights, nights. Nights on the roam. In the true soul of this music town. Into Printer's Alley. Hanging out with a famous rock band. We drank whiskey and Coca-Cola. We talked of music till dawn. I was trashed and the singer was standing there. As I exited the club, I stood up from my seat and fell. I stood up befuddled. I exclaimed in a drunken slur, I broke the rock and roll rule, thinking there was a rule in rock and roll that one must not fall down. Well, I was helped up and he said, but you got back up and that's all that matters. I hobbled to the bus stop, attempting to sell my sunglasses. I carried autographs in my pocket. Nights of pure fun. At Municipal Auditorium, as Jenny Lane of Warrant is in a yellow cab. The show is over, sees me in my rock and roll gear by way of the Alamo, and asks, "Where's the party at?" I tell him to go to the Gold Rush. That's where the stars go. Nights, nights, nights. To be young and elite, the constant movement and tapping of feet. To seek out mystery in the night. Nights, nights, nights. Thank you. I want to present that like one of my first open mics I ever did, which didn't go so well, but this time was better.
I love that.
Thank you.
My name is David Koci. I kind of help with the Literature Cafe Global shows. I try to help with the technical side, putting the videos together and putting the publications together, and I try to write some too. I really appreciate Brian because he's always just had so many ideas and so much motivation. He's kind of like a guy that you met on like a at the dock with a huge sailboat, and just looks like he's having such a great time, putting it together and getting everything ready to sail. And you just ask him, "Hey, do you need some crew members?" And he looks at you like you're nuts, and then he's like, "Well, I guess so."
Yeah. We actually did need crew members because there was a period where the Literature Cafe Global kind of was in a slump, and I had to get some new admins in there to refresh, want to do some stuff, because we were wanting to do some solo work, David and I, and this and that, and I was bogged down with stuff. So we found a great admin, Mr. Anton Boz, and I'm very thankful to him for his work. He's very dedicated. And hi, we're taking a break in the show now to remember someone's birthday, Mr. Joe Speer, 24th. And he is missed very much in the arts community, and we hope this program reaches him in the ethers of entertainment and beyond. Thank you from the Literature Cafe Global. Well, we are interviewing Pamela Hirst tonight, who is a godmother of poetry, and her name isn't singular in the act. There's also Joe Speer, who was a godfather of poetry. And at a time, you could not see them because it'd be on Channel 19, The Cat, and CATV. And I got to be on there many times, helping out with interviews, and I was taught how to interview people. And I got to write for the newsletter, which I'm sure Pamela will talk about in a little bit. But in short, I learned a whole lot in that time period that a 19-year-old may have never, ever learned. And I also learned how to host a show. But I'm going to let Pamela Hirst speak for a moment and intro herself, and then we're going to ask her some questions, as I know she's probably been asked a lot of questions for having such an astute role in poetry and guiding us all, but class is in session. So Miss Pamela Hirst.
Well, Brian, I just it's so good to see you and to get to relive those memories and those days, because that was really special, and I remember you well. So I started going to Wendy's on the Cumberland with Maria Cerna, and we started. I don't know how Maria and I started. We started doing poetry long before I met Joe, and we were called the Beat Sisters, and we did our little things there. At that point, C. Rye and D. Phillip had taken over the readings from the original people that I remember are Ruth Harston and her husband, whom I can't recall his name now. And Charlie Fenton ran the place, and I had just, I'd never seen anything else like that. To my knowledge, that was the first true open mic for, for just the people. It wasn't academic. It wasn't sponsored through a college or classrooms or anything like that. It wasn't academic poetry. It was just the poetry of the people, and and there were just some really unique characters there.
Well, speaking of characters, I think you can see on the Zoom as a joke what I put in the middle of my Brian Burchette was when I first started, it was ballad that I went by. And through a long journey, I went back to my name, but I put that on there for you, Pamela.
Get out.
Oh, I never revealed it to anybody in Nashville ever about the ballad thing for years, but here it is.
Well, so we had C. Ra and D. Phillip, who were, especially C. Ra, just bigger than life. And you know what's so sad is all these people are gone now. So many. And it's a wonderful opportunity to give tribute to what they did because it really was a unique time. That it was what it was pre-Titans. Once the Titans came, the Houston Oilers came to town and became the Titans. That whole poetry scene and the art scene all lost its appeal because everybody got crazy. We couldn't get publicity anymore on in the newspapers or anything. We could barely even get our gigs promoted, but. So Joe came to town, Beatlick Joe Speer, and he was from Albuquerque, New Mexico. He had been publishing. Joe inspired me. He'd been publishing his friends in Albuquerque, Santa Fe, California, Kansas, all over, and people would send him. You would write your poem, put it on a piece of paper, one page, 8.5 by 11, and mail it to him. And he would have like 100 people send him those, and then he would just he would staple them all together and put an art cover on it, get an artist to do an art cover, and he distributed that. And that has always been his way. From the time he was really young in Albuquerque, and he had a long history in Albuquerque long before he came to Nashville. And then when he came to Nashville, we started the Beatlick News, Poetry and Arts newsletter. Then he started community access television show, Beatlick Theater. He had a community access show in Albuquerque. And he just raised the awareness. Because before, Windows on the Cumberland, to my knowledge, was the only place where you could go once a month, So once Joe got to town, there was a lot more opportunity for exposure.
That's wonderful. Because I remember being part of the publication and instructions on how to get things better, because there was a lot of edits in that and programs. I remember one night I had a job in West End, and I was on the television on Speer Presents, and I walk into the place where they're playing hockey, or they wanted to watch hockey, and I said, "Can you turn the TV to the station?" There I was, and a drunk guy goes, "Well, why are we not watching the hockey game?" And I'm standing by him in the same outfit I'm wearing on TV. And I was like, "But I'm on the TV." He said, "Who cares? The hockey game's on." But the funny thing was, I could find myself on TV at 3 a.m., all sorts of times.
Right. Actually, Joe had a lot of time. He had a lot of screen time, and that really, when the people that saw that, they went way out. One time we were on the Natchez Trace, 100 miles outside of Nashville, on a trail. If you know the Natchez Trace, which is a historical highway and ancient trail that the Indians and the buffalo started. And all of a sudden someone says, Mr. Speer, Mr. Speer. And someone had recognized Joe by the back of his head, and he was a fan of Speer Presents.
Oh, wow. That is amazing.
Joe loved that. He loved it.
Well, the thing about it was he was very humble about it, but he also knew how to handle it. And
Yeah.
and I always wondered one thing about, and David's going to ask a question in a minute. Uh, when he started, he did at the shows he would do them as pages, and I always
Right.
expected the book to come out as pages, which I highly respected when it became treks because it was amazing as treks too. But I'm saying, what made him switch from pages to treks? Was it more of a publication thing, or
Okay, he did start out with pages, and he started out with a typewriter, and he would do one page, and that he would take that, and we were living on Greenway back in those days in West Nashville, and he would take that one page and take it down to Douglas Corner or take it to Windows and read the one page. But then the typewriter segued to a computer. And then the computer segued to a website, and using all these different devices and putting things online, you just couldn't maintain that formatting. It just, it was, you just couldn't maintain it. So he changed the name to Trex, his different Trex, just because he just couldn't maintain the format. It wouldn't be consistent between doing something on a typewriter and doing sending something online. It wouldn't maintain. So he changed it to Trex, and that's why.
that was interesting because I used to love seeing what page would pop up in each show because you'd always be going like, "What's the new page about?" And
Right.
and David has some questions as well. I'm going to turn the floor over to him because I hope
Okay.
we're not asking too much.
Well, first thing I want to say is that it's so thrilling to hear the way things were done before because um, I'll say for myself, it wasn't until I knew Brian way back. I went to one of his poetry nights, one of his open mics back in probably, what was it, like 2004 or something like that, I think. It was a while ago. That's where I first met. Well, it's not where I first met Brian in like 2001 at his house, and it was pretty neat to meet him and his brother. And I always hoped that I would like stay in contact with them, and it was really nice when I ran back into him after getting back from Los Angeles in 2004, and then starting going to his open mics. But the reason why I say that is because I ran back into him, I think, in 2020, and he was doing the Literature Cafe Global at Cafe Coco, and I was just like, wow, this is so nice. And he let me put my synthesizers up there and, perform. I tried to set up as fast as I could and, got some songs out, and, my friend helped me out. And Brian was just really welcoming, and, he always spoke highly of Joe Speer, how like he was his inspiration in doing that stuff. And then COVID happened. I was getting ready to go to his next event the next month, but it was canceled because of COVID. And I was like, oh, it's kind of funny because I was like, oh, we should do it anyway. I don't know what I was thinking, but then my friend's like, yeah, but you don't understand. You could get someone else sick. And I was like, oh God, why didn't I think of that? And I was like, I felt like silly. And I was like, yeah, we need to stay in. That's when it all just like hit me at once. I was like, wow, this is like serious. And we need to like, I was wearing masks and stuff, but like, I just didn't even, that was like, realizing that show was canceled was kind of like the big realization to me that we were in for it, and, so, luckily, our friend Maria, another person named Maria, she had a Zoom account. So we started doing Zoom events, and that was really awesome. And then Maria and her husband got busy doing stuff, and so they started a family and everything, and so like it was. I got a Zoom account, and then we just started. He told me about Joe and how like he would do all kinds of different media, and I thought that was really amazing. Because for me, media is like really special. Like physical media especially, and digital media is cool too, especially visual digital media. I really am fond of, like the movies that we make, like as far as it's kind of like, to me, it reminds me of like old MTV mixed with PBS or something like that. I don't know. It's kind of like how our videos turn out, I think. But, and that's okay. I enjoy that. But the Trex thing, it's really just fascinating to hear because, the way he'd try to combine everything, I guess, and just kind of like make like a streamlined format, and that's pretty brilliant because it's and the consistency. I understand, like, a lot of people stress the necessity of consistency, like, and I think in a way consistency is important as far as like perhaps like dependability. But in some ways, I think consistency can kind of be a little too cookie cutter and not really go with like the artistic.
It could be a burden.
Yeah, and take away from just the natural flow of like artistry or whatnot, or just that faucet that we learn to turn on in our heads and just let it pour out, which is something that I read a book. My teacher, I'll go into it later more, but my teacher, Bob Bradley, he was my English teacher my junior year in high school. He had me read a book called Big Sky Mind, which it's like called Big Sky Mind, aka Buddhism and the Beat Generation. And it was about the process that like people, the big names, like Jack Kerouac, Allen Ginsberg, William S. Burroughs, all those guys, and how they like, it was all about first thought, best thought. The book was just kept on saying first thought, best thought. Just like in the best like composition, like literary composition, books I've read are all about just like write what you're thinking. Just like what's on your mind, put that on paper and don't worry about it. And if you want to write an essay, then go back and edit it. But like first of all, just write what you're thinking. And the beats were really about that, and that fluidity for me is like really important. I was born in July, and I'm a water sign, and Cancer, so naturally fluid's really important to me. The fluidity of everything, I guess. But yeah, it's kind of like this. It's almost like a battle or like a discussion between like this consistency, what people can expect. And then what comes natural, and how can you do that? And I honestly think with me, I work, I have a family, but this is really important to me. This is more than a hobby, and the art and music and literature that we do, and so it's kind of like there's a song by DMX called Just One Mic, and then a song by Eminem called I can't remember what that one's called, but it's like once in a lifetime, I think is what it's called, or something like that, or something like that. But anyways, point being is Brian and I work a lot and we have limited time to do this stuff, but when we do it, we go hard. We just know that this is the time we have, and we got to give it all we got, and we just try to it's kind of like that creative energy, just like a faucet. We try to turn it on and just like let it go, and just and Brian and I, we've gotten like I think pretty practiced at that, and I think that people like Joe Speer, he's like a local guy who's like a lot of communities that were in the United States back then that were really all about learning that Zen and the sense of just being able to like let your thoughts flow onto paper or however your medium is, I guess. So
well, Joe was one of the best extemporary speakers. I mean, he was so eloquent, and he had a real talent for that. But speaking of, I would like to read one of his tracks from his book.
I would love it.
And then people can get a feel of this.
Yes, we've been talking. We haven't. That's a great point. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this is my favorite track. This is track 27. And what Joe did with his book, he worked on it 22 years. He finished it on his deathbed. And he began every track with, Joe considered himself an expert, and he He was a great aficionado of movies of the 1920s and the 1960s. And so he would put a little excerpt about something from the 60s or the 20s in front of every Trek. So Trek 27, and his excerpt is in 1969, Margaret Atwood's The Edible Woman reveals the life of a young woman whose structured and consumer driven life alters drastically. Little tidbit. This is Trek 27. When I was a student, the majestic peaks of the Grand Tetons made me wish I could fill my dorm room with rocks. I didn't want imported beer bottles or old Christmas cards or calendar girls straddling motorcycles on my shelf. I wanted to adorn my study area with rock formations, but I settled for books and LPs because they were easier to move at the end of the semester. The best plan was to visit the rocks in their own habitat. I encountered the wonderment of random rocks as I hiked a trail to Lake Solitude. It was in this remote locale that I met a Buddhist monk. The monk had been there for 7 days. He spoke English as well as 7 other languages, and our minds closed ranks. On the 3rd day, as rain pelted the rocks, it turned out that we both wrote poems, so we created a piece, alternating lines. You and I were in a dream together, asleep under a rhododendron leaf, protesting secondhand smoke. A retired poet injected you with a free will serum. Desert winds were born from your wound and activated machinery of fraudulence as the internal blue buzz crawled through the rubbish of our collective DNA, through the canebrake of verbiage, from a parallel universe, smoky hallucinations under a yellow back porch bug light, prefigured thoughts to reinvent the world. After spending time with him, I felt like we were fast friends. He informed me that he could not survive for extended periods on the lowlands. He traveled from one mountain range to another. He had camped in the Alps, the Himalayas, and was then touring the Northern Rockies. His important work took place in dream time. Waking hours for him were given over to the mundane functions of the body. He created poems in his sleep and used the soft light of early morning and late afternoon to transcribe their significance. He had escaped the Chinese occupation of Tibet, and for many years he lectured to the Western world about the importance of Tibetan culture. He was content to live alone, but felt a heavy calling to a troubled land. The last time I saw him was on the evening news. He was in Vietnam. He sat down in the open in a public place and poured gas over his body. He set himself on fire to show us the unmitigated horror, and the quartz Buddha of peace burst into flames. You remember that one, Brian?
I sure did. I was sitting here, and the whole time you read it, lines are just flowing like kind of like an osmosis. And thank you so much.
Yeah,
That is
yeah.
wonderful.
He was the best.
Question.
Mhm.
Okay, so basically, what are the ways to get a copy of the book? Because since we're doing this, we might as well promo the book so that everybody can get a chance to read it that hasn't had a chance to read this stuff. Because I saw in some of the reviews how they call him the Kerouac of the 21st century. And
No, the Kerouac of the Southwest.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Kerouac of the Southwest. And it was just amazing.
Well, I mean, somebody else might have called him that, but I called him the Kerouac of the Southwest.
Well, in one of the reviews, he actually got called the Kerouac of the 21st century.
Oh, okay. Fantastic.
And, was doing my homework on this. But I've got one question. The official name Beatlicks. another thing everybody always wonders is how did you name the group the Beatlicks? Because it's such a wild avant-garde name, but wonderful. And how did that come about?
Well, Maria and I, we were the Beat Sisters, and then when Joe joined us, and we became like a troupe, we needed a new name, and we were hanging out. I remember I was house sitting for Lisa Kennedy, and we were in her beautiful apartment, sitting around the dinner table. And Gina Zanitas, who used to be around the rock block, she comes from a real well established songwriting family in Nashville, Alex Zanitas. And it was actually we were just throwing ideas around. It was actually Gina who came up with the name Beatlick, but of course it was a throwback or a tribute to Beatniks, and Joe was heavily influenced by the Beats. So it just I just remember Gina just kind of slamming her hands on the table and halfway standing up and saying beat lick, and we thought perfect. But I give that tribute to Gina Zanitas. And I don't know if she's still around or not, but that's
That
how it
is
came
amazing.
about. Hmm.
Well, David, did you have any questions you want to ask her since you're heavily into publishing and
Yeah.
and also what I'd like to say is that's not just the past. You're publishing right now. Like right now in the Southwest, your stuff online is very prominent, and I would love to get another poem on there, which makes me very excited when I do get one on there.
Well, I
Uh,
don't have a website anymore.
so, what kind of thing are you doing with online now? Is it
Well,
any?
the only thing I have going on is I've got two Facebook pages, and I am indeed still publishing people. Henry
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Henry
Quite well.
Jones.
Oh
Well,
yeah.
we're publishing. We've got something coming out from him, and but I did not the website. They transferred over to somebody else, and it got so complicated. I can't maintain that anymore. So all I've got is my Facebook pages. There's two of them, Beatlick Press, and as I say, I do still publish people, but I don't have a website anymore.
Well,
Mostly everything I do is through Facebook.
well,
And
it's
I do
something.
want to say also that for anybody that wants any of the books, that everything's available on Amazon.com and under my name, Pamela Adams Hirst, or you can just Google Beatlick Joe Speer. And actually, I published 4 books last year, and
Mhm.
this is every travel report and almost every poem I ever wrote while Joe was around, and it took 1,000 pages to accumulate all that, and the segued into four books to get it all written.
That's
But
amazing.
either my name, Pamela Adams Hirst,
Mm.
Hirst, or Beatlick Joe Speer. And also, if you'll just Google Beatlick Joe on YouTube, there's still a bunch of cool old stuff on YouTube.
Well, I got a question for you. Since you just showed us 4 books, people are going to be like, "What's in those?" Because it's got some good poetry. I know. Would you like to read one of your own favorites?
I would
Uh,
love to. Let's
We'd be very
see.
blessed to have that because a lot of people in Nashville will be watching the show very soon, and we're going to be hearing a lot of comments. And I can't wait for everybody to hear about this.
Well, I'm going to read. Um, somebody called my poetry corny. But that's okay. All these books are a tribute to the first one is bilingual. It's for my first bilingual book, and it's a lot of poems in Spanish and English. And I've got one that's a tribute to Joe. And if there's time, I've got one for my mama and one for Joe. I won't read the Spanish, but and it's about the first book is just it was the biggest challenge of my life was to overcome the loss of Joe. And and you know we do it takes work. Grief is work, but I wrote all of these to encourage people for people who have lost loved ones and lost their hope along the way. We do recover. It's work, but there is happiness. There is happiness on the other side of pain and grief. So that's that's what I wrote these for, is to be inspirations. So this is called The Coming Solitude, and this is from my bilingual book, Forgotten Graves. And the other three books are a series, and they're all my travel reports of all the years where Joe and I lived in the VW bus, and we had our big peace tour, and there's like 9 different tours. The final tour being the death tour when Joe lay dying, and we traveled cross country back to Albuquerque. And I was maintaining an email list, and all people all over the world. He got messages and accolades from people all over the world as he lay dying. You know, so it was a wonderful tribute. But this is called "The Coming Solitude." He is a poet I greatly admire. His heart is on his sleeve when he recites, and recently, in a sad, reflective moment, he lamented, "Everyone I love is going to die, and this is our common denominator. We come here from an ill-defined place to a sensory world of taste, touch, hearing, smell, and sight. We come all alone. And we will return to that place alone, all alone. My day of solitude has come, and I no longer can taste Joe's lips, smell the nape of his neck, hear his melodious voice, touch him, see him. It is frightening to see my known reality splinter away, one entity at a time. First the neighborhood, parents, best friends, then the wars and the economy, and now I have lost Joe. And the moorings of my knowledge are so fallible that I know nothing. Except this, I had the privilege of exquisite and abiding love, my crutch and my strength. Joe, your love lifted me up and gave me status that I could not achieve on my own. Thus I will glorify our love as I go forward without you, and I go without bitterness or anger as I progress into my solitary soul, my splintered soul, for indeed we were one spirit, and I will pour out everything good that we had together into that void of pain that this world has become. And I am called upon to be braver than ever before, to journey further than ever before, give more generously than ever before, and help make the world a better place for those who struggle and suffer. I will do this in your name, Joe, and carry forward the perfect love that you gave me. And when I am emptied out, wrung out, I will pass beyond this solitude into a new alternative reality, and I will love, not resent, give, not take, in your honor.
That was quite beautiful.
Thank you.
I like how
Well, it might be corny, but I don't care.
that is not corny at all. I like how it moved.
I'm kind of beside myself about that comment. I'm
Don't
not
ever
a big
think
fan
you're
of
corny.
hecklers. You know what I'm saying? That's a bunch of crap. It's beautiful. It's a wonderful.
Thank you.
I want to thank you for sharing that. I've lost a lot of people in my life too. My wife and I, we lost like 3 of our parents in a matter of 3 years.
Wow.
Starting in 2016, and then 2017 to 2016 was a terrible year altogether for me. But I did get married that year, and we got married that year. We got to get married before my mother passed away, and she got to.
Sadness and happiness all together, you know?
Oh,
The
it was very
balance.
pungently bittersweet. I tell you what, yeah, like it. and we're still together, and we're very strong, and I'm really grateful, and I'm really grateful for our family and the time we share, even though it's not easy, with the economy and everything and all that. But anyways,
Well, I bet you're great parents.
we try.
Ezra is a great kid too. We got to have a
That's a
show.
great name, Ezra.
Thank you. That was my wife's idea. Our joke is nobody's better than Ezra. No,
Well, we got to do a show at Scarrett Bennett Center.
yeah.
And it was on Halloween night, and the whole goal was in my heart and his, was for Ezra to have the best Halloween ever. So here's Ezra. He's this little running around Scarrett
2 years
Bennett,
old.
trying to make sure he didn't run down the hall and get away because it's a big place. And they had such a fun time, and their Halloween party was a blast. So it was, and we got to perform our poetry and songs and this and that. But seeing the kids so happy, it makes one really want to write something that kids could listen to, actually,
Yeah, we
That's
had a great
wonderful.
dance party after we had a couple performances by Brian and Pat and my friend Caleb Harper, and then I got on there and just played like some like pop music that was Halloween esque or whatever, and the kids loved it. They just had a great time. I think there was something for everyone that night, parents and kids, so it was a good time. But
Great.
what I wanted to say is the I I just want to first of all I want to thank you for just like sharing that point in time. I know a lot of us as we get older, like you said in your poem, there's it's like yeah. In one of my poems, I was writing about like my mom. She had Lou Gehrig's disease and she was dying, and I wrote this poem, this song about her, but it's because my father passed away when I was 14. So, and I have a stepdad my mom and my stepdad are very close, and but I'll never forget my father, who raised me, and until he couldn't anymore. But anyways, I said, soon again you'll find unity with the love of your life or that that you that you felt wholeheartedly, and in this virtual reality, I'll have another piece of myself taken from me. I'll never get used to this gradual course of slowly, inexorably being stripped to nothing. Is and and I feel like that what you wrote kind of I can't imagine uh losing someone like that like my mother did or like you did, and like I hope my wife and I we live long lives. It's you never know how much you promise, but it really does put things in perspective. And you know whether you're a prolific creator and artist and writer like yourself and Joe, or whether you're someone who I don't know, works in a factory and goes home and hangs out with your family, watches TV or whatever, regardless, like we're all people and we all feel the same things, I feel like we're more similar than we are different, everybody, I feel
It's our
that.
common denominator.
Yeah, the comment that was so, yeah, I love that was a great, that was a great metaphor you used and stuff. That was awesome. Yeah.
Tonight was too because I felt like when I got back here on the mic, I got to actually feel like I used to when I read poetry because you were hungry for it. You didn't know what the crowd was going to be like. You just want to get up there and do your best. And it was kind of like bringing me back to that just so I could perform that. But I could hear in your work, Pamela, the very same thing, that professionalism, the poetry, and just wanting to know what the next line's going to be. And to me, that's what spoken word is and should be. So,
Thank you, Brian.
Mhm.
Well, I do want to acknowledge, we discussed this before we started, but I love the irony that Cody Bottoms of Cafe Coco is now living in my house where Beatlick Joe lived.
Wow,
Bought it.
Great. Oh man.
that's great. We would love to have him on the show sometime if he ever wants to be a guest. Tell him.
Yeah, we need to try to work that out. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Yeah,
He
he's
should have some
really
great
cool.
stories.
Yes.
I
Well, we
met
could
Cody.
go.
He must have been in 8th grade, and his brother. I met him through a friend of mine in my high school in Fairview, and they said you need to see Cody Abram, I think. Anyways, they're like, you need to meet Abram, and I was like, okay. So I met Abram, and then I had this band bash at the local rec center in Fairview, and Abram came out and Cody came out, and they were in two different bands, and they played my band bash. They came from Nashville, and I was really grateful they came because I was having a hard time finding people to like play that band bash, in Fairview because there wasn't a lot going on, and they kind of like helped just make the show a show, and then it inspired more people to do band bashes after that. It kind of got like the ball rolling in that direction. So I was grateful because after a few band bashes, I got really like my ADHD kicked in and I started going into exploration mode more so than I was organization mode. So I don't know how great that was or not. That was a rocky road, I tell you what. But for years, just the experimenting with psychedelics and all that got me really disorganized and off track and wound up by 2004. I think I was in a homeless shelter,
Yeah.
and finding a
Wow.
job. So yeah.
Well, David, you might want to get a hold of him soon because he makes my old house and the whole yard a huge Halloween installation.
Oh wow,
He's
that's
been doing that for years, and that would be a great thing. I don't know how often you do your shows, but that would be a great thing to discuss right before Halloween because he builds like a Disney World of Halloween and takes up the whole front yard. It's
that's amazing.
incredible.
Yeah, we gotta. I'll try to reach out to him. I think I'm friends with him on Facebook, so maybe I can meet it somehow.
Tell him it was my idea.
Yeah.
I
And we
will.
would
I
like to
might
have
help.
you on the show too. I would like to say we would love to have you on the show too to do some of your favorite Halloween poems or whatever you would like to do that night. We'll leave it open.
Me?
Yeah, sure.
Oh man, I wish I had some of Joe's old stuff. Maybe I can write a Halloween poem.
Do that.
Keep me posted.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
guys,
Yeah, we'll get this
everybody's watching the
planned.
show right
Yeah.
now.
Now I
We're
know
on
on
another
Halloween
show.
we'll have to do it like the day before Halloween or something, perhaps. Halloween night, I'm going trick or treating with my son, and my wife and I. This may
Well,
be
you should
considered
go
corny
by
by
the
some.
house. You should go by that. I don't know how far out you live, but
Mhm.
Well, I live like north of Cookville a ways.
oh, you're too far out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that's okay. But like the thing is yeah, on Halloween night we do this corny thing where my wife and I we go trick or treating, and then or we did last year, but before that, then we go home and we watch Sleepy Hollow and Hocus Pocus, which are both Disney movies, but it's fun.
Oh, how
So
cool! How cool!
yeah.
Pamela, what are your plans for Halloween? Pretty much.
Oh my God! Well, here in Mexico, it's the Day of the Dead.
Oh
And
yeah.
actually, I'm going to a fabulous. It's been well established. It's been around about 30 years, but I'm going to a guest ranch in a town called Etla, that's about 14 miles from Oaxaca City. And my girlfriend, her mother owns this place, and this is a small little town, and they will be partying nonstop for like a week.
How
And
nice.
so, yeah, I'll be in Etla for the Day of the Dead. I'm going up at 23rd, and I don't know how long I'll be there.
Well, we
But
would love to see some pictures posted in Lit Cafe
I'll do
Global,
some video. I'll do some video of that for sure.
and you will
I'd
be
be thrilled.
posted.
That'd be awesome. And we can always we can do this more remote if needed. We don't all have to do it real time. I can splice it all together, and we can make a special out of it. And we can
Well,
even celebrate Day of the Dead,
we
because that
can
is the day after Halloween.
discuss. Maybe we can discuss. I don't know how it would work, but I can be during the Day of the Dead when I'm in Etla. If I can be videoing live and somehow we're connected.
Yeah.
Do
Oh,
that. We
that'd
can
be
do
wonderful. We will
we'll
plan
do a
for
live
that.
feed
Yeah.
of the Day of the Dead special from you. And this
Yeah.
show will go out, and
What?
people are going to know about it happening because this right here will be,
Yeah.
well, it'll be the past at that point because in the future they're going to hear it real soon.
Well, okay, well, we'll do a test run. Once I get up there, David, we'll do a test run with my phone and everything and see how that works.
Well, you
I'm
guys
super
heard it here
thrilled. Thank
first,
you.
folks. We are going to have Day of the Dead on the Literature Cafe Global, direct from Pamela Hirst.
From Mexico.
From
El
Mexico.
Dia de los Muertos. That sounds amazing.
This
Thank
Alright.
y'all so much. Like, I just
Alright.
appreciate y'all's, both of you, like, I just appreciate y'all's, motivation and dedication to making things like this happen because it's wonderful.
Well, Brian has worked so hard ever since I met him. He's been so
Well, we
dedicated.
started when I
Yeah.
first started in it. I had one poet tell me when I read all my poems in 5 minutes. He said, "You're wet behind the ears," and I got upset at first because I've been writing in my room, and I thought, "What do you mean? I'm a great poet." And I realized it takes time, it takes patience, and sometimes the poems I've written now I like better than my younger self, and certain poems I wrote back then I still like. But I realize you kind of grow as a poet, but you got to grow with your friends, and you got to grow with those who are the best people for you. And
Well, hey, Brian, did you ever settle down or get married or have a family, or are you still the itinerant poet?
I did try for all that, and I had a girl, and she had kids already, so she didn't want to have any more children. But it turned out she cheated on me, and it went away. And then I came back to Nashville 2 years after, and resumed the whole Nashville scene again. So here I am in Nashville. If you love us, if you like me, if you like Pamela, David, any of the poets, support this show, share it, do all that stuff they say,
Well, I'll be thrilled to death to share it with my friends.
Oh, totally. I think this
Thank you.
show is going to be seen by a lot of people in Nashville. And I know I can predict this because this show's had a lot of content I've really been wanting to talk about for a long time. And
Will you please mention for me now? There's going to be the written stuff that I did. Is that also going to be available somewhere online?
well, what we can do is we're working on the next episode of West.
Yes.
It's going to be online, and
This
we're
is
doing
the first issue.
We're doing our Halloween issue, and we would love to feature you in it, Pamela.
Yeah.
But I mean, all the written questions and everything, is that going to be somewhere as well?
Yes.
Or
Yeah, it will be in the next episode. That'll be the next issue of this magazine right here. We have a Halloween.
You'll be
We have
sending me.
Yes.
You'll send
I
me
will-
links.
That's right, and I will mail you one if you want. Like
You're
since
getting a free copy.
yeah, we'll definitely
Well-
mail you one because y'all like. I mean, you and Joe contributed so much to our shared scenes, and even though I wasn't really there to like experience it, Brian has really like inspired me and like motivated me to like move forward with a lot of my endeavors and helping him and helping myself and stuff and other people, and like I know that motivation came from somewhere, so I'm willing to just print you out a copy and whatever, we'll make it work. Like we do like kind of like print to order publishing, because that's kind of what we're doing right now. But we will have it on we will make it available on ebook format and that sort of thing, and we'll sell it. We put these on ebook for like $3, and you can also rent them out of libraries and stuff like that.
The thing about it is, all of the physical copies we sell of this, guys. But when you get a copy of this online, even electronic, the money's going to go straight back to printing. We're not even taking anything from it for ourselves.
Yeah,
So
everything that we we're like a collective. Like everything that we do gets put in a box and goes directly back into the budget for like making more publications, and we spend
That's
way more
wonderful.
on it than we ever make. We're considering looking into grants and stuff like that. It's just that I kind of know a little bit about grant writing. I did some of that in school, but
Well, go for it. Go for it.
Thank you. We will. We just got to get around to it, I guess, But it's kind of like what I was saying earlier is the, we're trying to work on consistency. Some people in my life who I see as mentors have, really encouraged me to like work on consistency. But I guess it's kind of challenging, because I don't want to lose the fluidity. And at the same time, I want to make sure I take care of responsibilities. So I don't.
Right, right.
But
Well,
yeah,
if you know how to write a grant, there are a lot of people. Brian, do you remember Navita Gunter?
yes,
Yeah.
Oh man, she had a 501 and grants, and she had all kinds of stuff.
wow.
That
Yeah,
would
I
be good to
mean,
learn because
some unlikely people, you know?
well, the Literature Cafe Global has reached across the globe. And when I got my admins in place and we all did our thing with the other admins, I was able to do SoundCloud. And at that point, we reached Australia, we reached the Netherlands, we reached France,
That's awesome.
Germany, so many countries. And we got a person that whenever we post one of the songs, her name is Maggie. Uh, if she ever watches this, she posts our songs and compliments us. And she's a wonderful lady who lives in Australia. And there's Henri Carrière in France. There's Bas Lieberworth, a heavy metal singer in the Netherlands. I'm trying to remember a lot of people here, but I feel like it takes a lot of people to really make you realize how the world connects. And right
And
now,
don't forget.
Hmm.
Oh, I'm sorry. And don't
Brian, I
forget
think
Hecate.
Brian is morphing into Beatlick Joe.
Let's not forget Hecate, EK4T3. They are a collective out of Milan, Italy, and they do a lot of dark electronic, a lot of like various art and stuff like that. And they're really amazing people. They really inspired me. They kind of like taught me their do-it-yourself DIY sort of way of making your music, burning CDs, making covers for your art, and they really taught me a lot about do it yourself printing and design and stuff like that, and really inspired me to get back into art and stuff like that because I got really into music and forgot about the art, and they got me back into it, and I appreciate it. Um, like I'm not going to go too far into this, but this is a book that I printed kind of like with their style of just making things yourself and stuff and using like some publication things and uh this is Bacchus Pele Productions. That's like my production company that I run out of my house, which is like very bare bones, but it's a lot of fun, and it symbolizes everything that I produce. And then they taught me how to like just they more so like inspired me to make CDs. Like this is like a DVD I made of like a mix. I think you listen to it and I appreciate it very much. Um, uh, or I, you sent like a comment about it and I really appreciate it because it's like this one right here. It's the So Many Seasons mix. This is a DJ mix of like just some random picks that I did in my music, 23 tracks, and
They look awesome.
thank you. Yeah, and yeah, those guys, maybe you can see their logo right here. That's their
I do.
logo.
I do.
Yeah, and they inspired me, and I kind of helped manage the collective on this side, in the United States and North and South and stuff, because you know, we're just like a collective. And Brian, Literature Cafe Global is kind of like a collective as well, and we're like collectives that like collect with one another, and it's all just a matter of like, this like, I don't know, ontological social anarchy kind of thing, I guess, or what, we just don't really, we just try to go by the rules of respect and motivation and movement, and yeah, but this is like a DVD of the DJ mix I made, and like they encouraged me to like make a bunch of stickers and stuff and put them in with the art and everything. So a while back, I broke down and got an Epson Eco Drive, and it's just really been
Wow.
like it's been a giver, you know. I mean, like I've had it for about 4 years now, and you know, worked on it, replaced some parts, but it's still turning out decent prints. So I'm really grateful I have that.
And he also
And
did this Bizarre Verse, a
yeah,
book of
that's
poetry.
Brian's book that we printed, you know, with you know Literature Cafe Global and Bacchus Paley Productions and stuff. I'm not really trying to plug myself as much as I'm trying to just like plug the people who inspired us, and it all goes back to people like Joe, and really Joe, because I mean, you know, Joe inspired Brian, um, Brian and Brian and Bob Bradley inspired me, you know, and that came from Windows of the Cumberland, you know, and I remember Windows of the
Now,
Cumberland.
Charlie Fenton is still alive. He doesn't have any online presence. I'm not sure I know how to get a hold of him though. But
Hmm.
I wish
I
you
don't
could
know.
find him.
But what I'm saying is like those poets from before, like you know, carried us on, and they were inspired by the beats,
Well,
and these
you know,
beats are like you know kind of like the forefathers, you know what I mean? Like they're the four parents, you know what I mean?
another
Like
person I like to mention before we close this program out, and because I know everybody in Nashville is probably watching this, because I would be if I saw everybody on the show. James C. Floyd, the Jefferson Street poet. He's left the building, but he's not forgotten. His poetry,
Absolutely.
his poetry will always be in our mind. And this show, the Literature Cafe Global, if anybody has any ideas, start hitting us up, because we'd like to start reaching out more and doing more shows like this to where we reach out to our legends and start showing people how you can be a great poet, not just a poet.
That's awesome. Well, I will mention if anybody wants to know any more, just Beatlick Joe Speer. Just Google Beatlick Joe Speer on Facebook. You'll find me. Beatlick Joe Speer on Amazon.com. You'll find his book, Beatlick Joe Speer on Yahoo. I mean, on YouTube, and you'll see some of his old videos from Spear Presents.
and I want
Great.
to mention that on this video will be on YouTube, and in the info section will be links to all this stuff.
Oh,
So,
fantastic.
so you can
And
click
plus,
on that and just go straight to it.
that's
Yeah,
fantastic, David. I'm so appreciative.
you're
Can't thank
welcome.
you enough. Yeah, awesome. Anything
If
I can
this
do to
is the most
support
I
your
can,
efforts, I'm there.
that I really appreciate that very much. What we do, you know, we put a lot of energy into stuff that like it's kind of like the first, you know, the right, you know, the first airplanes. You know, we're putting a lot of effort into something which, you know, it's hard to get it off the ground. You know, and
We'll get multicultural, and I'll start sending you some stuff. We'll see if we can't work out some Day of the Dead stuff
Nice.
and become multicultural.
that's my dream. As a matter of fact, I kind of put a pause on making some videos just because I didn't feel like we were representing our community as well as we could. I felt like we could be more multicultural and more you know inclusive of a lot of different styles. You know, is what I felt.
Mhm.
And we put a pause until we met more people and you know networked more and stuff like that to find more people that would want to participate on our shows and stuff because I feel like
Well, I'm gonna try to get a hold of James C. Floyd, some of his family members, and see if I can't get a contact for Charlie Fenton.
Nice.
that'd be wonderful. Thank you. Yeah, I'm super thrilled. I just want to say this really melts my heart because like I said, the Nashville scene is very competitive these days, and we put a lot of work into this stuff. I just want to be honest and just say it's challenging to find venues to do what we do, and
Yeah.
with the way we do it, which is like you know we don't like to charge unless we have to, and a lot of people don't understand our not interested in profit way of doing things. They don't get it. they don't know what our real initiative is. They don't realize that like our initiative and our agenda is simply to let our creativity flow out of us and hear people and help people understand what real life is all about. You know what I'm saying? Like real ordinary life. How I feel like the purest art is free personally, because that's like, you know, that's the real. I will say this: graffiti on a wall. Yeah, perhaps it's illegal, but these people come out and do these beautiful murals that are, you know, every like, you know, very vivid, very brilliant, very vibrant, and, you know, all kinds of different styles. And they come out in the middle of the night, risking getting caught, and they put it on a train, they put it on a wall or whatever, and then they disappear. And there's this beautiful piece of art that people that appreciate art would really appreciate and can really see the rawness and the humanity in it all, you know. At the same time, these people are they don't get notoriety for it. They're not looking for payment. They like a decent sized mural that like fills like a box car, you know, on a train. Probably like
Right.
$200 worth of paint, you know. They're not looking for notoriety, money, or anything, but that's like real life on the side
I
of a
never
train.
thought of it that way before. That's a wonderful sentiment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that, you know, growing up and being in art class and, you know, in high school, I had some friends that did graffiti and they kind of like helped me understand that. And it made me realize, and when Napster came out and, you know, all that stuff, I realized when like, you know, huge, you know, artists started suing fans, you know, for like, you know, not paying for their music, I just realized that like I love music and I love creating, and I don't know where I would be or what I would be doing if I didn't create music, you know, and art and stuff and literature. I just don't. I'd probably be in like a mental hospital, you know, like not. They probably won't want to let me out or something. I don't even know. But point being is that like I realized I need to do art for free and just be relentless about it, you know. And for me, it's like, you know, producing the proliferation of art and art materials and doing it in a spirit of relentlessness. You know, that's how I feel.
Well, as Beatlick Joe Speer used to say, support art. Don't wait for art to support you.
Thanks for your time so much tonight. And
I'm so flattered and so happy. Thank you.
Well, I can't
Love you
wait.
guys.
Oh, well, we're going to have you back on the show,
yeah,
and with the suggestions that people have heard about, I think they're going to tune in because we've been hungry for some really good poetry in Nashville and across the world. Because this video is going to be seen by a lot of people. And thank you, Pamela, and thank you, David. And we're going to end this transmission, guys, so you can, you know, do whatever.
Live for art.
Live for art. There you go.
I'd like to do a poem for you entitled A Poem Is. city with no cars, a place where tobacco smoking is restricted to the latrine, where Gilgamesh and Beowulf form a coalition to snuff out American imperialism, where we go back in time to rectify the injustices to women of color who during the Harvard Renaissance worked mostly in domestic service or as laundress, waitress, or seamstress. The 20s did not roar for everyone, where octogenarian Cary Grant continues to receive amorous glances from glamorous starlets. The poem is our lifeblood, mailed off to stern editors to be spindled and mutilated. A poem is a place where teachers are paid more than janitors. Poem is what makes me happy. When versifying, I think positive thoughts like, I did not die in a random drive-by. I was not loved at any kind of color. My property was not confiscated by drug enforcement agents responding to an anonymous call concerning an illegal plant growing between the sunflowers and the corn in a rural garden in Kentucky. My family was not mangled in a car wreck during a high-speed police chase of a man, a senior citizen who failed to signal when he turned left. My house was not destroyed in a fire started by the butt end of an ignited cigarette and flicked casually out the window of a rented red convertible by an Italian circus clown living in a South Florida trailer park. A poem is the confluence of our energy, more revealing than our DNA. We redeem ourselves one poem at a time.
Success is Counted Sweetest by Emily Dickinson.